This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 144. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's great to be back this morning with all of you because I've been on the road doing a little bit of traveling and going to talk a little bit about that today. And super excited that we're starting to head into September. Always kind of the turning point of these summer months and starting to think about fall. So really excited about that. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of newsroom and notes. We've been sort of hammering at home about the Protector series of skis and what's going on with that. And basically we are more or less sold through the first two batches of pre-ordered skis. And now we're sort of regrouping and getting everything in order to be able to produce skis for the rest of the season. But there are, I believe, a couple pairs of the 184 centimeter Protectors in both the 95 and the 105 underfoot. So if you are interested in those, please go to freeheellife.com and get your pre-order deposit in. All the materials are kind of all set there for that batch, but we just need to get you all dialed in. From there forward, really what we're going to be trying to do is get on more of a production where we're making them and they're in the shop and available online, which has always been our hope and our dreams. So, but for all those that have pre-ordered the skis over the summer and kept our crew rolling, very much appreciated as we are building our business as always. And yeah, now we're coming up to, I believe, year number 8 of the retail shop and couldn't be more excited. It's really fun to be here and be able to watch the growth every year and just awesome times. So as far as other news and stuff going on, basically we're, probably going to start coming up with an opening day sometime in October. Usually it's within that first 2 weeks of October, and we're just kind of getting that all squared away and want to be sure that we've got that. We'll start promoting it as soon as we can. With that said, our staff has been there all summer. We've been preparing for the upcoming winter and fall months, and some of our shipments are actually starting to arrive in September, in the latter part of September. And you'll usually start seeing our used gear pickup. So if you're looking for used stuff, parts, we're usually pretty well stocked up even now with both new and used parts. But basically just keep checking back on the website and we will definitely keep you in the loop as to what is going on. Super exciting times though. And always love getting to this time of year where things start cooling off. Yeah, and just fall time in general is always exciting and always love getting into the cooler months. I like summer, but I really like fall. Fall's nice, right? A little bit cooler weather and just a nice time of year. Other news, nothing too much other than Protector stuff. Shop stuff. Definitely sign up for our mailing list. This is something we've really started utilizing a couple times a week, actually. Usually there's one email at the beginning of the week, one at the end, keeping you all up to date on what's going on with Freeheel Life, and would love to have you on that. If you're on Facebook, I've been getting in there a couple times this last few weeks on our Freeheel Life forum on Facebook. We invite you to go over there. That's a great way to connect. If you are part of the Facebook system or whatever you want to call it. But I am getting in there, starting to get questions asked about maybe topics that we need to cover, what kind of content you want to see. And we're going to be doing that as we start gearing up this month into the next season of content. That's a big thing for us. You know, our YouTube channel is another great place. Tons of old videos if you're looking for some stoke to get ready for the season. Lots of videos, lots of edits, and lots of how-tos and whatnot. And Protector reviews. stuff about our skis. And this is really, really what we're going to be diving into, is just getting more content and try to solve the puzzle of, making content that you also want to see out there. If you're on the Instagram side, you've probably been seeing we're doing a lot more reels, which for the uninitiated Instagram people, they are 30-second video clips, short movies, if you will. The attention span's gone somewhere. Who would have ever thought? So 30 seconds, we try to capture your imagination with all sorts of fun stuff, primarily ski edits, and a good way to cool off in the summer is keeping track of what we're doing there. So I think that's it for kind of the newsroom and notes. And most likely, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, but probably going to do a little bit shorter podcast today. Been kind of a wild week of traveling for me. And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on a little bit today, was just kind of what I've been up to, and thought it would be kind of some fun stuff to share on here. Maybe a couple good topics of both history and travel and all sorts of things. Maybe spur some more conversation down the road. But I had the wonderful opportunity to, I was invited to go over to Norway this past week, and I went over there to meet up with Rottefella, who I've worked with, I guess, over many, many years, all the way back. I think the first time I really started doing stuff with him was, I want to say around 2010. We created, when I was editor at Telemark Skier magazine, we created the Rottefella NTN demo tour, which ran for, I believe, 3 seasons while I was there. And we basically traveled around with the free ride and then the freedom at the end of that tour 3-year cycle, and basically went all over. Well, I don't want to say all over. It wasn't the most crazy tour. I think we did 6 stops, and we did have a lot of West Coast, and I think there was an East Coast one, if I remember right. Hard to remember. That was a little while back now. I don't know. We'll chalk it up to old age and a couple beers along the way with some ski buddies. So fantastic, though. The NTN demo tour was awesome. And then we've done other stuff, various projects over the years. And anyways, they are about to celebrate nearly 100 years in business. And they were putting together a short sort of documentary history piece. I'm not sure of the length. I don't know. I'm probably guessing maybe anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, I think, tops. And sort of documenting the history of the company in Norway and people they've worked with. And I was honored to be chosen as the Telemark person to go talk about Rottefella and their impact on Telemark over the years. And really grateful that they thought of me when I first got the call a few months ago. I mean, I obviously was honored because I'm an American freeheeler and not a Norwegian. And that's pretty amazing to have the opportunity to go represent Telemark and the Telemark culture in this short piece. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw me getting hair and makeup done and all sorts of fun stuff. And I had a blast, and very, very short trip. I basically flew there. I was there for about 2 days in Oslo and had a fantastic time, and thought I would just kind of touch on a couple things that I did while I was over there. It just kind of got me thinking about, one, the travel season. Winter's always kind of the time that I've been able to get out and see new places. And funny enough, I've been going to Europe since 2005, and this was the very first time that I've ever been to Europe in the summer months. So go figure. But I will say Norway is a beautiful place this time of year. I would say, I didn't actually look at temperature in Fahrenheit. I believe they were saying it was 20 Celsius. I should have done the math before I got on, but I would say, probably mid 70s, maybe 80. Perfect time. It was sunny, very good timing to be there. And it was awesome. So I'll definitely keep you in the loop when that little piece comes out and let you know where it's at so you can check it out. And there's some cool other folks that are going to be a part of that as well, from the Nordic side and the exploration side of things, and all very, very cool stuff. So congratulations to Rottefella first off for being around for that long, and just very, very, very impressive. I guess before I kind of hop into some of this other stuff, I do want to mention I went out to their new headquarters out near Drammen, in that's maybe, I don't know, 30-minute train ride from Oslo, and beautiful area right on a river. And the new headquarters was absolutely beautiful. And one thing I really, really like about, I've always enjoyed about Rottefella as a business, and this is the first time to the new headquarters since they built it in 2 years ago. Their other one was not too far away, but it was further beyond that, I think in a little town called Klokkestua, if I remember right. Forgive my Norwegian. It's non-existent, but I try. But, one of the impressive things about the facility was just, I always love seeing all the machines that they have. In short, it's a very in-house type of business. They have all their own plastic injection molding. They have, one of the coolest tools that I got to see, because of course I want to see the Telemark stuff, right? And it's a smaller part of their business at this point. But it's one of the cool things I got to see was actually people making 3-pin super Telemark bindings, and just a really cool stamping machine. And we dated it back to 1962. So, talk about just a awesome piece of history. It's cool to see that those machines have been around for a very, very, very long time and making Telemark bindings for people. And arguably Telemark / Nordic, because Super Telemark probably was that 3-pin binding was definitely kind of a crossover tool, but really, really cool to see. I actually got to watch them putting the pins in, and that was just a blast to see that stuff, and then look at some of the NTN stuff. But yeah, going back to the machines, and just, it's so cool to see everything made in-house, from the injection molding to CNC stuff, being able to create their own tooling and prototyping. And for me as a business owner, and especially as we've gotten into manufacturing the last 2 seasons, it's so fun to look at a company that's been around nearly 100 years, and here we are, like year number 8. And I've become very passionate about buying the machines, whether it's a table saw to cut down the wood for the cores, or some of the other machines that we've bought. And it's just exciting, and it's exciting to be able to make that stuff. I think it's a really cool part of the process of being a Telemark business. And so that was very inspiring for me to go there and check that out. And much thanks to my friend Torstein Miklebostad. He's the CEO, and we actually did a podcast together way back when. So if you want to go digging through that old podcast stuff, that's a good one, and you can kind of check a little bit more out about that. Great times. Yeah, if you haven't been to Oslo or Norway, beautiful people, amazing place, and I can't recommend it enough. And I think that's it. So there's my travel hot tip for the day. But so I had one free day before I had to do filming for this little video piece that Rottefella was doing. And of course I love history. I love running around. And one of the places that I went to that I kind of want to I thought would be kind of fun to kind of tell you a little bit about it was the Holmenkollen Ski Museum. And got me thinking about a book that I had gotten from a customer I haven't made my way through it yet, but it talks a little bit about this and talks about the ski museum and how when he wrote this book, he had access to this as well. And this ski museum has been on my radar forever. And when I have been to Oslo, it's usually like a starting off point. We jump off to go, both times I've been to Morgedal or the Telemark region of Norway, which is not far, but I just never had time to go to the Holmenkollen. And if you're hearing that word and you're thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard that word, but maybe you didn't think of it as a ski museum, it's probably because you've heard of it as a ski jump. And it's an incredible ski jump that's sort of, when you look at it, it's this like suspended ski jump. I don't know if suspended is the right word, but the architecture makes it look like you sort of got this like hockey stick sort of ski jump. To me, it looks like it's floating in the air above the area. And the jump site, like, so when the ski jumpers come off, it's like you're flying into a arena full of people. I mean, the architecture is phenomenal. like I would love to go watch ski jumping there live, because I can't even imagine what that would be like just sitting in this little arena. It's sort of like you're watching someone jump into this fish bowl full of people at the bottom. I posted a couple things. I'll try to put it up on my Instagram, Josh Nomadson. You can check it out. And I'll try to do it to accompany the podcast chatter that's going on right now. But anyways, below, like literally underneath the ski jump is a ski museum. And just what a cool place. I've been to the ski museum in Morgedal, seen some of the original Telemark stuff before, and just ski history in general. Obviously, Telemark being a segment of that. The Holmenkollen has an amazing ski museum that sort of goes way back in history, brings it into the Telemark era, has sort of some of these in adventurers Nansen and I think I'm hitting that right. I some of the explorer stuff I always forget about, but and then into modern era cross country and the like. But overall, just such a cool, rad place. Highly recommend it. It's an easy train ride from the city center, and very, very cool. So going back, I sort of touched on this book that someone had given me. It's called Telemark Skiing: Norway's Gift to the World by Halvor Kleppen. And let me scope out. I think this is, I was trying to look at, it looks like 1986 is when this was published. So 1986. And I was going to read you the preface and then a couple quotes from some gentlemen right at the beginning of this book, because I looked at this when I got home and I was like, man, these are really good things, because this was the stuff that kind of got churning around in my mind as I was going through a lot of this stuff in Norway this past week, and thought it was really cool. So I'm going to read the preface right now. Again, this is from Halvor Kleppen. He wrote a book called Telemark Skiing: Norway's Gift to the World. And he says, the main purpose of this book is to link the new trend in skiing, the Telemark way, to Telemark skiing's traditions in the last century. It is in many ways a closer relationship, but in other ways a distant one, separated by history of skiing that lies between past and present. Another of my aims is to get people out skiing in virgin country, away from the groomed slopes and tracks, out in the woods and up in the moors, skiing the way people used to ski for fun and at work more than 100 years ago. I alone am responsible for the book, but the process of getting it ready for publication has involved many other people. If Bent Deith had not persuaded me on the slopes to try Telemark skiing a couple of years ago, this book would never have been written. I am also especially indebted to Stein O. Engel of the Norwegian Professional Ski Instructors Organization, Eric Enich of Scandinavian Mountain Equipment, Tor Erik Hans Larsen of the Joint Office for the Sport of Skiing, Kjell Osnes of the Osnes Ski Factory, and Steiner Opstad, Timex Skiathlon. They approached the subject from different angles and have spent valuable time advising me about the manuscript as it took form. Curator Karen Berg, director of the Holmenkollen Ski Museum, gave me free access to the museum's valuable photo archives, and many of the photographs in the book came from there. I can, incidentally, warmly recommend a visit to the ski museum when you are in Oslo. Everyone who is interested in skiing will find something of appeal, especially cross-country skiing enthusiasts. The author. I love this introduction for a couple reasons, because one, I highly recommend going to the Holmenkollen Ski Museum as well. I love that he talks about there's something for everyone that's interested in skiing. And I also like that the people that he collaborated with a little to get more information, he says that, as they were advising him, they approached the subject from different angles. And this is something I love about, I know he's talking about Telemark in 1986. I don't think much has changed. And I love this introduction where we all look at it from different angles, and this is what creates innovation. And I just felt like this book preface, me going to Norway, going to the Rottefella factory, it just really made me think about how awesome it is that all these different angles exist. And that's how history is made, right? Like this is and how the present stuff is made too, how we innovate on things, how innovation drives other people's thought processes and having them take a different angle at how they think it should be done, and on and on and on. And I just think it's awesome. Just a couple other things I wanted to read, while we're digging into the history books here, is a couple quotes that are literally the next page in this book. And one of them is Telemark in 1886 by Fridtjof Nansen. He says, Telemark is the rightful home of skiing. The people of Telemark are unquestionably our country's best skiers. And if they are the best in our country, I can doubtless say without fear of exaggeration that they are also the world's best. They have taught the townspeople a completely new way of skiing and have thereby raised the art of skiing to the heights it has achieved in recent years. Telemark skiers truly deserve our respect and thanks. So Fridtjof Nansen in 1886, and this is when things are happening in Telemark. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Telemark, it's a region in Norway. Think of it maybe like a county with lots of places. And then Morgedal, if I refer to that at all, Morgedal is the town where Sondre Norheim lived and was credited with really being the father of modern skiing, and mostly like where skiing becomes sport. So, okay, so right next to this, there's sort of this comparison to 1986 when this book comes out. And let's see, this is, let me find the gentleman's name. Hopefully I can find it. It just says, in 1986, during the world premiere of the Timex Skiathlon in Vrådal, Telemark, Gjermund Eggen said in connection with the Telemark combination, and he says, in 1986, this is the right way to go in for skiing, and it's fun. There's cross-country, ski jumping, and slalom, using the same type of skis as were used across the fields of Telemark more than 100 years ago. There's far too much specialization and seriousness in the field of skiing today. But the fun on skis that we have seen since the start of today can once more persuade people to experience many different skiing activities on the same pair of skis. And I thought, how beautiful is that? Because a lot of times, even in 2022, right, people sometimes look at Telemark, or you'll say, hey, I'm a Telemark skier. And they're like, you explain it to them and they're like, what's the point? What is the point? And I think this really sums this up. And I love that it's back in 1986. But, you've got cross country, you've got ski jumping, you've got slalom. In our day and age, you have everything. And last week I was talking park skiing and jumps and talking about, we always talk about turns and powder, groomers, ice. The beauty of Telemark is it's on a Freeheel pair of skis, you have all of these options and the ability to do all these things. And it's all on the same pair of skis. And so I love Geermund Eggen and what he said there. And I thought that was just amazing. So anyways, I'm going to kind of leave the book at that. I thought it was a good sort of kind of intro. I was going to talk a little bit about what I saw at the Holmenkollen museum, but I thought this was a great introduction into just some of the thoughts I had around it, and kind of seeing the things that were said in 1886, the things that were said in 1986. Here we are in 2022, and what's going on here and now in Telemark. And like a lot of things, I think a lot's changed and a lot hasn't. But I was just going to kind of roll through a couple things that I saw in the Holmenkollen that I thought were awesome, just to sort of hopefully pique your interest. And some things that I saw, and definitely go, again, Instagram. I'll post these on both Telemark Skier and Freeheel Life Instagram probably too, but a good place I can sort of splatter them on the internet is on Josh Nomadson. You can find me on Facebook too. I've got a page there. But there was so much cool history, and some of the stuff that I saw was everything from military application of skiing, which I love that stuff. I think mountain warfare on skis is really, really interesting to me. And people, I think people that study that stuff, I am by no way a historian of mountain warfare, but I do love it. And I think it's very interesting. That was kind of the first imagery of these two Viking looking dudes. I think it was probably later than that, but maybe it was the Vikings. I don't know. You've probably seen this picture, but they've got I think the prince, who is to be the king, and they're skiing away with an axe in hand, and it's there was some military application obviously to the skis. And that was actually, there was a couple pieces in there that I really like. So if you are interested in sort of that application of mountain warfare, skiing in sort of that way of thinking, there was a couple of them there. And I mean, the dates were crazy. I mean, like this other one, there was some, it was like an instructional sort of how to move your skis, and it's sort of this little soldier person, and this dates back all the way to 1716, when it looked like one of the kings in Sweden had ordered an attack on Norway. And anyways, there's basically kind of these watercolor drawings of some maneuvers that you can do, and it's wild. It's like, I know you're not seeing the picture here, but I'll definitely post this. It's like the guy's holding like a musket in one arm, and then he's got a single ski pole, and he's doing like a kind of like a kick turn. And it's sort of this like instructional stuff all the way back in the 1700s. So that was, there was a couple of those things that really stuck out to me and I thought were pretty cool to check out. And then they had some stuff harkening back to the Morgadal stuff that I had seen that was really cool. The other thing is some of the stuff I hadn't seen was some different ski configurations that I thought were very, very interesting. There was even a ski system that where like it was one region or a city, I can't remember what, but they actually would have like one really long ski and one short one. And I believe like the one shorter one had a permanent skin on the bottom. And so it was like this ability, again, not really for sport, right? But more of like getting around and travel. It's so cool to see that. And then to think that, you know, at some point, you know, Sondre Norheim and these other people in Morgedal basically start coming up with sort of transitioning it from this utility item of where you live and how to navigate snowy weather and get from A to B, or military exercises or whatnot. And now they're doing sport, you know, they're turning, and all of that innovation. You know, if you haven't studied that, that's what's so cool about Telemark skiers. You know, from that area in Morgedal, they shortened the skis up. They gave it side cut. They added a heel binding to give it much more stiffness in terms of how it felt. Quick side note, I've talked about this before, but if you've ever actually put your foot inside of a birch like sapling binding that they had in Morgedal, where it's a loop and a heel band, you're talking like hammerhead stiff, like hammerhead on 5, lots of pressure. It wasn't floppy. It was I always joke around that American freeheelers and bringing Telemark back in the 1970s, we kind of ruined it in terms of power. You know, we went back to these skinny skis, double camber, and our bindings were then attached at the toe rather than where the pivot point was much more aggressive, like in the 1860s. So food for thought. I won't dive into that one now, but I have talked about it. And I always think it's funny that, yeah, whenever you hear old school guys be like, it's not Telemark if you don't have leather and pins. And it's like, you know what? Actually, the 1860s Telemark guys had really aggressive bindings. So to think that they would probably laugh if you showed up to Telemark Norway in the 1860s with your flimsy leather boots and 3-pin bindings. So just food for thought. So the thing that really stuck out to me that I was like, you know, obviously I love ski history. I love looking at the different, we have the museum collection at our shop. Love that stuff. And so we see a lot of skis, but I've often brought up that you don't see a lot of poles. And when I do get old poles, I'm always really interested in it. And Telemark has an interesting, has a very interesting history of ski poles. And I will say the Holmenkollen Museum has more about ski pole history than anywhere I've seen in terms of just being able to see actual stuff. I'm flipping through some photos as I'm talking to you, some of the stuff is really interesting is looking at the evolution of the basket at the bottom of the pole. I saw like double baskets. So like one basket on top of another basket for additional flotation. That's cool. Handles were a big thing too, that were really interesting. And then of course, the one thing I was very interested in is the single pole, which I kind of mentioned that military one in the 1700s, it makes sense because if you have 2 ski poles and a rifle and a musket, probably not it's going to be tricky, right? So it makes sense. You got one pole to maneuver you around, and then you've got your musket to fight with. But there was a lot of history in terms of the lurk, as we would know it. And, if you've listened to me talk about Morgedal and the people from that area, they were really into like these short sticks, not the long lurk like you're like a mountain kayaker of sorts where you're sort of going back and forth. That was very much like a Christiana or modern Oslo thing, at least from my studies and talking to people over there. The people from the Telemark region wanted to show how badass they were in terms of balance. And oftentimes when they ski jumped, they would just even hold a pine bough to show that they didn't need the assistance of a long ski pole of sorts to balance themselves upon landing. So, but with that said, I know sometimes I talk shit on the lurk because I think there's obviously a deeper history there, but seeing a lot of these was awesome. I absolutely adore this stuff. And the baskets they were using, there was even a collapsible lurk, which I thought was pretty cool, where it was like it kind of scissored together so you could go long or short, and it sort of had these metal ends to it. Really fascinating to see that, sort of like a modern breakdown of a lurk. Some of the baskets were really interesting. Again, maybe like your really old school baskets, and then you had like these smaller ones that kind of reminded me of like our more, hard pack, inbound sort of plastic baskets, but I'm not sure. These probably made out of some sort of a leather or something like that. Really, really interesting stuff. And then there was a whole selection of different poles, different lengths, depending on where they were. And the other thing that I had never seen in person, but I've read about, was a lurk with a scoop on the end of it. And I have read about these, I believe, in ski pole history somewhere. And I'd always associate it with, I want to say like the way north of Sweden or like Finland, like Lapland and kind of that area. And my understanding is that you could sort of break ice with the lower part of the pole that's kind of pointy. And then you would have this scoop that you could actually scoop water or remove the ice to get to the water. I think, if I'm understanding that correctly. Just very, very interesting stuff that, I'm going to read this to you. This is actually from it. It says, skiers used only one ski pole until about 1890. The pole was long and solid, so the skiers could break and maintain balance, except the people from Morgadal, because they were badass. They were usually made of fir, ash, or birch, and had a disc of wood, bone, or horn. Some of the poles also had other functions. The upper end could be shaped like a small drinking cup or shovel, the latter used by Sami Herd, S-A-M-I. So really cool stuff. Yeah, so there's some of these bottom baskets were like antler, or bone. I mean, just really cool mixtures of stuff. And the scoops are fascinating. So, again, I'll post some of this stuff. Really interesting to see. Looks like there's even one with a spear top on it. Just love it. Such a cool experience to see a lot of this history and just evolution of all the things we use for skiing and whatnot. I had a great time. Highly recommend it. I wanted to share a couple things. I know this isn't maybe the traditional type of podcast, but I just was so fired up going to Oslo, having the opportunity that I did, which I'm absolutely grateful for, and really being able to get some ski history in while I was there. And it always piques my interest just to see more of that in person and read about it and see it in real life. And I'm just so grateful to do that. And I wanted to share a couple of those experiences at the museum with all of you out there today. So I'll make this one short and sweet today. I can't wait to get back next Monday for another episode. Please, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, rate and review the podcast. I love getting the reviews. It helps bump us up and get us in front of more people. And that's what we're looking to do. And I'm just so happy that I can be a part of this community out there, and stoked that after all these years, Telemark is alive and well and strong all over the world. And I hope you'll help me this week get the word out and get people thinking about snow here in the Northern Hemisphere. And I'll do the same. And until next week, brothers and sisters of the turn, spread Telemark always.